Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Frustrated Wife TW. My 29 female husband, 33 male, is an overgrown child, and I think I've reached my breaking point. I'm sorry if this is jumbled or formatted weird. Our most recent fight just happened and I'm still upset. So, we've been married for 4 years, together for 7. We have 2 kids, daughter, 4 female, and son, 2 male. I'm really not sure where to start. My husband is an overgrown child. He just doesn't know when it's time to be serious. This is the only problem in our marriage. He's extremely loving, affectionate, and kind. He loves being a dad. He loves our children more than anything, and they love him as well. He is constantly playing with them, and I think this is where issues start to arise. My husband cannot understand when it's time to put playtime on pause. I'm serious when I say he's in playtime mode with our children from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. This results in extremely hyperactive children in the morning when I'm trying to get our daughter ready for kindergarten, and it's extremely frustrating to have to struggle to get her fed, clean, and dressed and out the door on time for school, where he will then drive her to. At night, this results in hyperactive children who can take up to 2 hours to get to settle down and go to bed, and by then it's way past their bedtime, and will sometimes wake up grumpy in the morning because they didn't get enough sleep. He will sometimes even be egging our children on at night when we're sitting with them in bed trying to wind them down to sleep. It's incredibly infuriating, and I will tell him to stop because I'm clearly trying to get them to sleep and all he's doing is keeping them up. He laughs and says he's just having fun. My husband doesn't do hard discipline. He tells our kids to stop fighting each other or to stop touching fragile objects. But when it comes to times out or taking away things like dessert, certain toys, TV time for the day, etc., he all but refuses. He will leave me to be the bad guy, and I'm absolutely sick of it. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the mean mom who doesn't like fun or has to ruin their fun, but he just won't do it. I've told him that he needs to stop leaving all the hard discipline up to me. Says he will, but then leaves it all up to me again the next time. I dread when the kids get older and things like grounding become a thing. My husband is constantly breaking our children's toys because he wants to play with them. He's broken a kiddie trampoline we got for them because he wanted to jump and play on it with them. He's broken 2, our daughter and sons, of those toddler-sized motorized cars by sitting on them and riding around with them. Like, I would look out the window and see him riding around on these things, having the time of his life. Meanwhile, our kids are standing on the edge of the yard watching him and waiting for their turn. He's broken a little kid basketball hoop by pretending to be on a pro basketball team and doing dunks, which bend and break the actual hoop. Our daughter's birthday was last month, and one of our friends bought her a little scooter. My husband broke it within a week because he wouldn't stop playing and doing tricks on it every time he stepped outside the house for something. Our daughter was devastated because she loved that thing. Even more so because she loves our friend who gave it to her, so to her it was extra special. I also feel terrible that this toy my friend spent her money on was destroyed by my husband before my daughter barely got any playtime on it. Now, my husband is 6 feet tall and about 20 pounds overweight. That's 1.80 m and 10 kilos. He has absolutely no business playing on these children's toys, and I've told him time and time again to stop playing on them because they aren't made for a person his size and that he will break them. And then he does. And he'll sheepishly carry the broken toy to me and say, "Sorry." But then he's back at it again, destroying another toy shortly after. We got our daughter a bike for Christmas so she can start learning, and I don't even want to give it to her because I know he'll ruin it for her like he always does with their toys. And these are just some of the bigger broken toy examples. There are also countless smaller things of theirs he's broken, like balls, dolls, little cars, a dollhouse, a slide, etc. He's always making our kids play with him, even when they clearly don't want to or just want to chill out, relax, and sit and watch a movie. This mostly applies to our son, who is much more introverted and sensitive than our daughter, and usually prefers calm and quiet interaction over the loud and hyperactive playtime my husband always does. A handful of times he has frustrated or overwhelmed our son by continuously pushing son to play with him, resulting in son starting to cry because he just wants to be left alone. Okay, so now you have a good picture of what I'm dealing with. So, on to what prompted me to post here. My husband is always telling our kids and everyone else that our kids are his best friends. Since our daughter started learning to talk, he's trained her to answer the question, "Who's your best friend?" with "Daddy." Our son is in the early talking stages and he is starting to train him to do this as well. At first, I didn't see any issues with this and actually thought it was cute. But our daughter has made a really good friend, 5 female, I'll call her Emily, at school this year. Daughter is always talking about Emily and asking if Emily can come over or she can go to Emily's house. Today, my husband asked our daughter, "Who's your best friend?" And our daughter paused for a moment, got a huge grin on her face and said, "Emily." And it looked like my husband had just been given the worst news of his entire life. He asked her, "What?" And our daughter started giggling and said, "Emily," again. And my husband said, No, who's your best friend?" And again, still giggling, she says, "Emily." My husband's face went blank and immediately removed himself from her and went into the other room. Our daughter seemed a little confused, but mostly undisturbed and went back to watching cartoons. I followed him and asked him what was wrong, and when he starts talking, I realized he was beginning to cry. He tells me that he's supposed to be our daughter's best friend and that he can't believe she would toss him aside like that. Now, up until now, as I said, I thought this best friend thing was cute. I never realized exactly how serious my husband took this. If I had, I would have tried to put a stop to it early on, but then again, how exactly can you tell your husband to stop calling his kids his best friends? Anyway, I was a bit shocked at this point, and I admit I didn't use as much tact in my response as I probably could have, and asked him if he was serious. He says, "Of course I am," and I tell him that he's the parent. He's not supposed to be a best friend to his kids, he's supposed to be the parent. And that he's 29 years older than our daughter. Of course he's going to eventually make friends her own age and start considering them her best friends. He tells me I don't understand, and I told him he was being ridiculous and childish. He looks at me as if I just slapped him and tells him I'm being heartless and accuses me of not wanting him to have a good relationship with our kids and leaves the house early to go to work. I have no idea what to do. I almost feel ridiculous because how can someone have an issue with their husband loving their kids? I feel insane, and I haven't been able to talk to any friends about this because I feel like they'll all be, "So you're mad at your husband for playing with your kids? What's wrong with you?" But I just don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to address these issues with my husband in a way he'll understand, so he'll start being reasonable about them. I also feel extremely anxious about everything now because my husband and I have been trying for the last 2 months to conceive another baby, and now I don't want to bring another child into the world without having this mess sorted out. But I know telling my husband I want to wait on this 3rd child will devastate him. Wow, OP, so you're basically married to Daniel Hillard, or otherwise known as Mrs. Doubtfire. At least that's what I was thinking while I was reading this, until that part where you said that he was upset that his daughter had a best friend and it wasn't him. And then his words that he can't believe that she would just toss him aside like that. That's a red flag to me. I think you're absolutely right. He isn't supposed to be the best friend. He's supposed to be the parent. Anyway, OP, communication. I think you do need to sit down with your husband and talk to him about everything that concerns you, but keeping a cool head, because this is clearly a sensitive issue to your husband. Now, if talking with him leads nowhere, then maybe you need a 3rd party to help you out. Either way, you certainly have to do something about this, because you can't keep being the bad guy in every situation. He needs to step up and be a partner and a parent. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Girl Rediscovered says, "Have you tried pointing out he's hurting them by breaking their toys and a lack of downtime could make them ill? He is their father, not their friend. Makes me wonder how his own dad was." And OP responds, "I did point out to him when he broke our daughter's scooter how upset it made her, and he seemed to genuinely feel bad about it and apologized to her. He went out and bought another one for her a week later, but I've still caught him riding around on it. I haven't thought about going the sick children route though, thanks for the suggestion, and his relationship with his parents growing up was great." Deleted says, did you date for long? Were there any previous signs of emotional immaturity? You're right, he's supposed to be the father, not her best friend. His response suggests he may have a skewed view of this role. The only person he needs to be his best friend is you. When your little girl becomes a teen, that best friend crap has a high chance of coming back up when she needs daddy on her side and he is willing to do anything, including taking her side over yours when he shouldn't, just to fill whatever this emotional need is of his. He needs therapy, or at the very least a book about parenting and boundaries, child development, that kind of thing. Why humans assume we can jump out of that plane with no chute will never cease to boggle me. And OP responds, we dated for 3 years. He has always been a bit of a goofball, loved play fighting, teasing, etc. I never thought it was an issue then because he seemed to have a better grasp in controlling it then. But once kids were in the picture, it's almost like he forgot how to be an adult. I've thought about therapy, but I've never looked into therapy before and I have no idea how to go about picking one. Are there special kinds of therapists for this, or do you just go to a general one? And how do I bring this up to my husband? I feel like your relationship with our children is getting a little intense and inappropriate. Just sounds so wrong and harsh. Naakka says, among all the weirdness, I really think you need couples therapy, even just for the way he is throwing you under the bus by making you the bad cop when it comes to discipline, etc. And practically depriving you of the chance to have fun with your kids. It is really insulting towards you that he thinks it's okay to rile the kids up when you are trying to get something done or get them to go to bed. Having your husband undermine necessary parenting activities is not normal and you're not crazy. Tell him there will be no third kid as long as there is only one actual parent. Additional information from OP's comments. He has no social anxiety, at least as far as I can tell. He's never actually said that he does, and he is one of the most extroverted people I've ever met. He had no issues making random conversations with strangers and generally has no issues handling himself in public. He's actually a loud talker and I'm always needing to tell him to lower his voice because I'm the one with social anxiety and I don't like the attention his loud voice will sometimes draw. Also, we have quite a few couple friends we hang out with a few times a month. They're a mix of work and college friends between the two of us, and our nanny will watch the kids while we go out to parties every other month or so. So I don't think he's lacking in adult relationships, just prefers being with the kids. I also said in a previous comment that his relationship with his parents is great, and he had a good childhood, his words. And when they interact with our kids, I see no indication of where he got his childishness from. He has 3 siblings, 2 older and 1 younger, and he's had nothing but great things to say about his parents raising him. Anyway, I'd really rather avoid bringing his parents into this because I don't want him to get mad at me for involving his parents in our issues. But I guess I can keep that in mind if absolutely nothing else works. Okay, well, the community had some insight and gave advice, and we got some more context from OP. So now we are ready to move on to the update to see how this story ends. A few things first. I just want to thank everyone who commented on my OP. I couldn't reply to all your comments and suggestions, but I read every single comment and story. I've received a few PMs asking for an update, and I'm sorry it's so late. This update would be extremely long if I typed every single detail, and still is kinda long, whoops. So I'm gonna try and condense it. So I sat my husband down the night he got home from work after posting my original post, and we had a long talk. Again, this would be incredibly long if I wrote all the details, so I'm gonna summarize and go in order of the points I made in my original post. Keep in mind, our talk didn't follow the order of my post, so I'm sorry if anything seems confusing since it would have been discussed out of order. On knowing when to pause playtime, I told him that I know he loves playing with the kids, and I love that he loves playing with the kids, but that I really need him to work with me during bedtime. I also once again pointed out that their lack of sleep is making them grumpy and harder to manage in the mornings, and that they're growing and need their sleep. He's had a couple of slip-ups since, but he's cooled it down around bedtime now and makes more of an effort to help me with bedtime. He started reading to them instead. I used to do it. And he's 20 times better than me because they love the funny voices he gives the characters. Yeah, I do that too with my kids. On discipline, I told him it's not fair of him to constantly make me feel like the bad guy, and that no parent likes disciplining their kids, but they need it to learn and grow into good adults, and that I need him to be united with me on punishments. He's having a little trouble with this one, but he's been trying more, which I appreciate. On breaking their toys, I again told him that I know he loves playing with our kids, but he needs to stop destroying their things. That not only is it upsetting them, but it's causing us to needlessly spend extra money to replace things we don't need to be. I took this part of the talk to suggest we finally get a full-sized trampoline like we had been talking about for a little while, and that he should dig out his bike from the garage so he can ride with our daughter when she learns. We're both probably more excited about the trampoline than the kids, lol. We talked more about this topic, but these are the most relevant points. He realized he does go a little too far after I described the scene I wrote about in my OP, with him riding around on their little cars while the kids are standing on the sidelines. I'm also happy to report he has stayed off of our daughter's new bike. And on making the kids play when they don't want to, he agreed that it wasn't cool of him to push just because he wants to play. I told him our kids are people, and just because they're kids doesn't mean they don't deserve to have their boundaries respected or time to themselves. And now on to the best friend thing. This was the first thing we discussed. Long story short, he was feeling hurt and generally having a little trouble accepting our daughter was growing up. This is really the first big thing she's done or said to show that she is, in fact, growing up. And he just wasn't expecting it and handling it very poorly, which he knew he did. I took a line from a comment on my OP and told him our children will have lots of best friends in their lifetime, but he will always be their only dad. This visibly comforted him, so thank you to whoever it was who wrote that. I took a suggestion from someone on the original post and suggested that he call up his own parents and ask them for advice on how they handled watching 4 kids grow up and leave the nest. He really liked this idea and has since done so. I also showed him stories commenters on my OP shared about their relationships with their parents growing up. I told him that I'm not showing them to him because I think he's going to become like those parents, but that I think it's important he sees the children's side of things. These stories hit him pretty hard, which led him to something I left out of my original post that I didn't realize was relevant. Lots of people asked how my husband's relationship with his parents was growing up, and I answered that it was great. However, my own relationship with my parents was horrible. Long story short, I don't get along with nor even like my parents, and I see and talk to them maybe once a year. Growing up was miserable to say the least. Just one example. My dad attempted to teach me how to ride a bike one day when I was about 6. But he has absolutely zero patience and would yell at me when I'd fall off. I eventually ended up crying and refused to keep going. Hadn't touched a bike since. Anyway, my relationship with my parents affected me for quite a long time when I was a huge ball of anger and resentment because of the way my parents treated me. I told my husband about all of this a few months after we started dating, so he was aware of everything from the start. My husband told me he told himself he would be the best dad he could because he wanted our kids to have the childhood he knew I wanted and wanted for them. Now, I started crying here and was a bit of a mess for a few minutes, lol. It was honestly one of the most touching things anyone has ever said to me. I told him he is the best dad and that I love him so much for it. Finding out that this was essentially the root of everything, it was a lot easier to continue with the rest of my points. Everything has been great since. He really listened to what I was saying this time and has made a big effort to help me out more while also cooling it a bit with the kids. He and our daughter have been riding around on their bikes together every weekend. I've also started learning how to ride so I can eventually join. Again, I want to thank everyone for commenting on my original post and helping me gather my thoughts. I thought a few things said about my husband were a bit extreme, but I realized that's something that happens when people give advice on a situation they only have so much info on. Very nice OP. This is it. Communication solved it. You were able to talk with him, he was able to understand and listen to you, which is very important, and you guys are moving forward in a good way. Apparently now you have a partner in parenting and your kids have a fun dad. So of course, this is a great update. Thank you so much for sharing OP and take care. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.